The damage to our reputation and our credibility, the United States credibility around the world, that damage will last for generations.
And I'll be candid. I don't know the exact number of Americans that were left behind because the starting number was never clear.
I received orders from President Biden through the Secretary of Defense to execute a full military withdrawal. This decision did not include the withdrawal of our embassy, our citizens, and at-risk Afghans.
We cannot be bouncing around a country that's at war and trying to look for this person and that person. It's just not realistic. There's zero doubt in my mind there were mistakes made, and I think the fundamental mistake, fundamental flaw, was the timing of the State Department call of the NEO. I think that was too slow and too late.
The two men who led our military during the disastrous, deadly withdrawal from Afghanistan in front of Congress today. It was a moment our next guest hoped would deliver truth to the American people.
Let's bring in House Foreign Affairs Committee member, Congressman Brian Mast. Brian, good to see you. Did you get answers today, and did anyone take responsibility for the failures of the Afghan withdrawal?
We did get answers today, and the general said what they have said now since they have been civilians, since they've been out of uniform, and what we expected them to say. Some of that you repeated in the opening, that the fact is they didn't pull out the State Department, they didn't pull out the civilians, they didn't pull out the Afghans that had worked with us before they pulled out the military, and by the time that they did a non-combatant evacuation, it was too late. They also testified. They gave their absolute best recommendations to the Biden administration. The Biden administration ignored those best recommendations, and we are still paying the price to this day with people that are still left behind, people that are on the run, are on the lam, and this was all confirmed by the two top generals. Their advice was absolutely to the contrary of what Joe Biden decided to do.
I sat and watched most of it today, Congressman, and I watched Brad Sherman blame Trump. And it was disgraceful. And it dishonored the men and women who died at Abbey Gate. But the American people know better. And I just want everybody to look at Joe Biden's disapproval. His disapproval has been above his approval since late August 2021. So the American people know, and there's nothing that these Democrats can do to try and place the blame anywhere else but on Joe Biden's shoulders and at his feet.
Yeah, Dagan, you bring up something very important. The objective for the Democrats across the board was not to get answers. It was to avoid getting answers for those 13 Gold Star families from the Afghanistan withdrawal most directly. They did everything that they could to say, listen, Donald Trump signed the Doha Agreement. He put that together, but that was absolutely refuted again by the generals saying, listen, the Taliban in no way, shape, or form, maybe in a couple small places, they met some of the Doha Agreement, but across the board, they were not meeting what the Doha Agreement said they had to meet, and that was one of the reasons that, again, they advised not to take the course of action that the Biden administration chose.
You know, Brian, I want to move to this because your State of the Union guest, Steve Nikui, the father of Lance Corporal Kareem Nikui, who was killed in the Abbey Gate bombings, was arrested over the outburst he had at the State of the Union address and gave this jaw-dropping update to Fox earlier today. Watch.
Those charges get dropped?
I have no idea. No charges got dropped. So
you're still facing charges?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And nobody from the administration has tried to intervene or help?
No.
And what do you have to say about that?
Not very much, because that administration, he won't even recognize his own grandson, so, or grandchild, daughter, or whatever. So it's not, it's nothing new. It's been this way for the last 2.5 years.
You know, Brian, this is consistent with all the prosecution and persecution of conservatives, from Donald Trump to parents, to Catholics, to pro-lifers. It's happening here with your guests. Anything you can do or members of Congress can do to help him out?
So I'm told an update since that last interview. The Speaker's office has been able to intervene successfully and make sure that the charges are dropped. That's what I'm being told as a update now this afternoon. But there's a couple things that I would say about that. Number one, you look at Steve Nikui and you look at Stu Scheller, Lieutenant Colonel Stu Scheller, United States Marine Corps, the only two individuals locked up over the Afghanistan withdrawal. Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, right, locked up, put into the brig for speaking out about it, and now Steve Nikui locked up after doing what he was charged with, which was demonstrating in the seat of government for the United States of America, where our constitutional rights should preside louder than anywhere else. He was locked up for demonstrating. And the final point that I'll say on that is this. When I was down at the police station with him, I was told one of the most startling things, because I said, hey, where's everybody else? Where's the members of Congress that were demonstrating and speaking up? Where's the people that held him up on the road, the president up on the road from getting there? And they said, well, listen, there's a different standard for members of Congress than there is for everybody else. And that's why there's no members of Congress locked up. That should never be the case in the United States of America, that there's a different set of standards for the members of the House versus those that are we the people that we are charged with representing.
Congressman Brian Mast, always great to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Sean.
Thank you, Brian.